2 tickets, isn't that 10 riddles?
No, so 2 tickets a day.
Okay.
5 riddles a week. So that's 10 tickets a week.
Yeah.
Yes.
10 tickets a week.
So that means 5 riddles in a week.
Oh, the 2 tickets are for each riddle?
Are for each riddle.
Okay.
Yes. So that means that every single day I'm tasked to find a new riddle. Something that would keep people. It shouldn't be easy. And that's hard.
It shouldn't be too difficult.
It shouldn't be too difficult. So that's hard. So you're all over the internet. Sometimes you're asking people stuff, formulating your own riddles. But it keeps your mind alive. Something else we do on my show, we give out road tips, rules of the road. I've read everything from the Road Traffic Act to statutes. Wow. Yes, statutes about the implications and sanctions of road offenses on the road, not just for drivers but for pedestrians, motorcyclists, anybody who uses the road. And then you give out tips on that. Sometimes I'm walking on the road and I see maybe bad tires. I'm like, oh, this is something I can talk about.
No.
How can bad tires affect you as a driver? They can increase your fuel consumption because it takes longer, because of the lack of friction, it takes longer for you to brake. You know, that's something that people want to hear. Oh, if I can spend less fuel by keeping my tires in shape, why not? So there are lots of things like that. So it's a lot of research, a lot of writing, and research comes with interaction with people, some rude, some receptive. It goes on and on and on. But by the time you finish producing one show, you've really learned so much. You've learned so much. And what people don't see is on radio, as opposed to what you can do on TV. If your presenter is behind the mic, you can't slip papers. No, say this. No, do that. No, do that. You know. So you're running around on the floor. If text messages come in, I don't want my presenter dying on air. So I'll edit them as fast as they come in, and you can imagine what that means. You know, it's a whole lot of work, but it's exciting.
Wow. Would you say there was anything in your past, or what could you share with us that was in your past that prepared you for this job?
Oh, that's a good question, and an interesting one. Like I said, I've always been a pioneer of sorts. I was a pioneer when I went to TIS. When I started teaching at TIS, people were like, oh my God, what well-educated person teaches? You know, usually people who teach, they didn't have anything else to do. I started writing when I was really young. When did I start pulling it all together? I was 18 and I started writing, and then we didn't have a lot of young people interested in poetry. So I've always been a pioneer of sorts. Having said that, my job is very much centered on pioneership, what I do at City FM. And because I'm used to taking on new challenges, setting the pace, forming my own traditions, doing things, pushing the norm, I believe that really did prepare
you for it.
And then secondly, a lot of people are not confident in their personal brand. A lot of the stuff I wear to work, for example, a lot of people could never get away with. And I wear black pretty much every day. Initially, people ask, oh, why do you wear black? And then it's my brand. So now when people see me in black, it's no big deal.
It's okay.
It's no big deal. So things like that. Because everybody knows I have my way of doing things, I've brought that to my work. So now it's reached the point where when I'm not even in studio, like a couple of weeks I was ill, Jessica goes, oh my God, you're not going to be here today. You know, I've always been asking myself what I would do if you felt ill, that sort of thing. And this is Jessica, amazing presenter. She's been in radio for 14 years. So to have her say something like that means that you're doing something right.
Oh, interesting. I think it's pretty obvious what some of the benefits are that you've realized from this job, but would you like to highlight on some that might not have been too obvious?
I know it's been said over and over again that media is one of the, well, when I say media, I'm talking about TV, radio. It's one of the greatest avenues for education. And I see that. I see how many people I can tell what the strength of my listenership is by the number of text messages or phone calls that come through, by the number of people who retweet my retweets, by the number of people who comment on my pictures on Facebook. And so sometimes I tell myself, you know what, you're talking to all these people, so what you say is really important. And when you're actually doing that job, that is more real for you. It's not just a philosophy anymore; it becomes real. Something else that I've learned is that what goes on behind the scenes far more important than what you hear, because you hear the product. It's like, again, let's go back to the shelves. It's like you're buying ice cream. You love ice cream. It's sweet, tastes good, but what goes into the ice cream? How is it produced?
The strawberries picked, or
Precisely, all those things. And if you pay attention to those little things, your product can only get better. So those are two of the most important things that I've picked up. And also, nobody is too young to talk. City FM does have a lot of young people working there because our MD believes that, young blood is fresh, it's teachable. You don't have anything like, oh, I know better than you, because they want to learn. But then also, those who are older allow you to speak. So my MD could well be an uncle or maybe a father, but I can walk into his office and tell him, hey, I think this and that. If you're willing to speak up and you're confident enough about it, people will listen to you. And that's also something that I learned from radio, more so because when you go on air, recently we had our writing room contest, City FM. I don't know if you know much about it, but it's a writing competition for kids between the ages of 10 and 14. And as the entries were coming in, I was reading the stories on air. And I have grown people sending me messages, oh, I love the way you read the story. I want you to mentor my daughter. I want you to mentor my son. And it makes you realize that sometimes you think you're too small and you can't do enough. But there's some big fish, quote unquote, sitting somewhere who appreciates what you do. So if you do it well enough, you can educate people the way you want to. It is.
Amazing. Apiorkor,
yeah.
Would like to know a little bit more about you as a creative person. I know you're really creative, but tell me some of the things you're involved in.
Okay. I write, I dance, I sing, I play instruments sometimes. I could paint if I wanted to, but I can't draw you to save my life. But no, on a more serious note, I've been writing for a very long time. When I was growing up, my mom in particular used to encourage me to write. And my mom she owned an early childhood development center in the States. So growing up, phonics was a thing. Your pronunciation had to be on point. We learned how to read. You were saturated with books. If you wanted to watch a movie, then it meant you were going to write a report on the movie. If you read a book, you write a book report. So sometimes you'd rather read than, because it would take you longer, than watch a movie. So there are things like that. But I appreciate them now because it enriches your writing when you have the vocabulary to employ. So what do? I've been writing poetry for a while. I've only been performing it for a little less than a year. What got me into performance? We have a number of creative writing, poetry movements, spoken word movements in Ghana. Halakasa is one of them. Alewa, poets, that's people of equal thoughts and spirits. You have all those groups. And I decided to perform one day. But I thought, I don't want to be like an Anasasi. I don't want to be like a Mutombo or like a Rhyme Sonny. I'm Apiorkor, so how do I make that special? And I realized that I'm not a spoken word artist. For me, it's more about the words than the performance. So what do? Whenever I have a performance, I back it with music, I sing a little, and then I read my poems. So the performance is the way it's read. Because I know I can read well.
Which is your strength anyway.
That's my strength, right?